Hello, welcome. Today we're going to learn how to create a freeform, in other words known as a mesh gradient. Okay, so as you can see from here, we are not just going to learn how to create these freeforms, we're also going to learn how to apply them, the applicability on design, if that's a word. Okay, so if you have a design more of black background or dark interface, whether a website design or a flyer design, whatever it is, you can go with the darker version of the freeform. And if you have a brighter design concept or a white background, you are going to go with the brighter version of the freeform. We are still going to learn the technicalities in this, what's applicable and what is not. So without wasting much of our time, let's dive into the new artboard I've created, and we are going to create this for the white background and also create this for the dark background. Now, freeform works best or works better with noisy textures. I'm going to still talk about that in the later part of this tutorial, but I'm trying my possible best to make sure this tutorial becomes as short as possible. The idea is just to give you the guideline, then you can actually use your creativity and work out the rest of the colors with it. So we're going to create a freeform. Let me zoom closely so you can see. You would be needing the rectangular tool, okay? So hit on the rectangular tool and draw a line or whatever size you want to work with. Okay, so now we have this. When we get into the gradient area, you're going to see we are faced with three types of gradient. Now, I would have to explain this very clearly for beginners so you understand these gradients and how they work. Now, the first gradient is a linear gradient, which means a color must come from one end to the other. You can be able to add multiple colors to this kind of gradient. Like, for instance, I want to add more colors to this gradient. All I need to do is to pinch on the part I want to add another extra color to. Just pinch on the part below and you can actually add colors to that particular part. So for instance, we added this color. We can change this color to whatever color we want. As you can see, it's applying from there. We can change the beginning color to whatever color we want. I hope you get the point. You get the point on how the basics of gradients actually work. So this is how basic gradients works. This is how the linear gradients work. Now, this is not all. Sometimes you might want to actually make the green have more space than the others. You can just select on the particular one you want to have more gradients and extend the rest of them from here. Okay? You see what I'm doing? Okay, so you can also remove a gradient by just pinching it and taking it out. You can bring it back by dragging it back to the particular viewport. Now, with that in mind, there is something again I would like to make you understand in a linear gradient. I think this course might just affect all kinds of gradients at once. I like that. So you can actually click on this gradient tool from this end. It is called the gradient tool. So just hit on the gradient tool from here. This is not actually the gradient tool that actually applies colors to your created work, okay, or to your created vector shape. This actual gradient, what it does is controls the color you've already created. So for instance, we can control its color to flow from the top side to the bottom part by pinching and dropping from whatever part we want to. So that's the second thing I want you to learn about gradient application for linear gradients. There are more other things you can also understand from here. For instance, you can hit on the edit button from here, okay, to start the edit again, edit from where you stopped. So since we have this particular gradient stroked from this part, we can also control the width from this particular angle and also control the intensity from the particular anchor point at the middle. This is called an anchor point and these are just the gradient angles. Okay, so we can adjust them the way we want, make yellow to show more in this particular part. Just control your stuff the way you want. But for the best practice, I wouldn't advise you to use more than 3 gradients in a particular work, unless you are working with a mesh gradient. So now we get into the next one, which is the radial. Radial simply means all gradients are going to flow from inside to outside. So it's going to be in a circular format. Even though you are grading the gradient to strike them, it's going to be from the center part. You can do it from the middle of the work, you can do it from the outer side of the work, whatever way you want to do it. I don't have much to talk about this. You understand from the first insight I gave from radial linear gradients. So we get to the final gradient, which is the main tutorial or the main course of today. We are going to be talking about the freeform gradient. Okay, the freeform gradient is very interesting to me because when you hit on the freeform, it gives you the opportunity to create things the way you want from your already created vector shape. Okay, it's not like allowing you to control stuffs from this angle. You have control right from your artboard and inside of your vector shape. Now, to create these gradients and make them work, there are things we need to understand, and this is why many people don't find it easier making use of the FreeForm Gradient tool. Now, you can apply new gradient points to your artboard in any space or in any way. Can hit on any part of this to actually apply a new color to it. But that is not this, okay? Now, when you click on a color, you can double click on that color to actually change the color style. So you see, it is not the same way we changed color in the previous one that we actually change color in this one. You can also create the already existing colors. You can actually affect them by clicking to apply the colors to it. That's the same way we can do with these ones. You can actually delete a particular gradient if you don't like the gradient anymore, okay? So that is it about the linear gradient basics, okay? Now we are going to get into understanding how this thing actually works. You can actually expand and reduce, but you expand according to the space this particular one gives us, okay? To expand, click on the layer and you can expand from this particular part. Now you don't want a color anymore, go to the gradient tool itself and hit on delete at the bottom part. It deletes that color automatically. Now notice what happens here. Immediately we delete the green color, observe closely what happens. The pink color covers more of the space automatically. You don't need to do that manually. Automatically it covers most of the space. What this entails is that gradient tool or gradient color variables actually work autonomously, okay? What it means is that the more space it can take, it can accommodate that space. Gradients in mesh tools are not actually controlled by space. As you can see, we don't know where this gradient actually starts from because it just overlaps to the other colors, and that is it. Except we add a new color from here and we change that color to a more vibrant color than pink, then we can start seeing the stuff showing up that way. Okay, now that's another thing you need to learn. Another thing I need to teach you here is that you can make a gradient style transparent in a way. So double click on a gradient and you can see up here in the opacity, click on it and you can reduce the opacity to 0 if you don't want it to show at all. And that doesn't mean that it doesn't show totally. It means that most effects in its point are being irrelevant. You want to change the color, you know what you need to do from there. You can change the color or reduce the color variables from here. I hope you guys understand that very clearly. So if this is reduced to this opacity, let me create another element from here. I'm going to make this red so you can understand exactly what we are trying to do. So I'm going to move this element to the back. I'll transform, arrange, move to the back. Okay, now we've moved it to the back. We can now overlap this thing to this particular part. I hope you understand what is going on now, okay? That particular part is simply transparent. That's why it's assumed that the red is above it, but the red is not above it. Let's see. You see? The red is not above it because it is transparent from that part. Now, when we put this part, to this particular angle, and we select and edit the gradient, and we still make this thing 0% from here, the red automatically becomes transparent from that angle. I hope you can see that clearly. So that's how the gradient tool also works, how to reduce opacity in a gradient tool. Now, finally, let's get into just create a sample of color, which we are going to reuse after now. So this, we are going to pull it back to 100%. We like it that way. Now, one thing you need to do is if you're using a color gradient style that have to do with more of a white background, you might need to actually make this particular center part a white color. I will show you why later. Or possibly select on it, make it black, but reduce the opacity to 0. I'll show you why in a little while, okay? So we click on this, we select another color. Let's just try to create our colors around. Let's just create some dummy color. To create a gradient, you need to take time to prepare your work. You don't need to rush out or rush into it. Just take your time, create your color gradient, and make sure it shines. Now you can move your colors around wherever you want them to be. It can intersect with this one, as you can see from here. You can control the colors the way you want them to be and make them flow the way you want them to be too. So you can expand this to actually make it blow up to that particular one, and you can adjust this to any part you want, or you can bring it closer to this particular part. So for the benefit of this, we are pushing it to this particular edge and I think we are okay with that. Let's expand this a little more and push this to the center so you can actually have a pushback of this boat. Okay, now we adjust this one to the font. You see what I'm doing? I'm just taking my time to like control my color. Gradient is all about control. If you can't control your colors well, it won't make much sense for you. So you have to control your color in a way that it works well, it pulls more effects and makes things more subtle and nice to the eyes. So fine, we have this particular pattern of gradient and I think I'm liking it. Just let's reduce this one to 0%. Okay, so we created 2 dots of white, one from here and one from this other angle. To like give that, we can also create an extra one from here, then expand it a little if we want. Okay, if we want to create that shadow. I think this is black, not even white, so let's delete that. It's giving a kind of bad shape, becoming a black sheep of the family. So we've created a gradient of white. Let's see if this is applicable to black background. So we drag in out and dragging this to this part. You see the particular part that is applicable is the part that we make transparent, which means this other part is not applicable because it is white and we can't use it on a black background design. So to apply this and make it applicable for both white and black, we need to reduce the opacity to 0 for the parts we want to be black. Okay, reduce the opacity to the 0, and possibly we might need to adjust all of this and create more of black background. Okay, convert it to 0, and I think these other colors are overwhelming these other two. So this sort of stuff is also okay for us to work with. Can we pull it out a little? Mustn't be too busy, just subtle, so it won't make any much difference from what we are planning to do. So now we have these colors available. I think I would like purple from this side. Okay, I think I like purple from this angle. No, that's too heavy. Now, choosing color is very important. We can control our color from this other swatch or use the color eye picker tool to pick color from wherever we want to pick color from. But for this, I want us to go with a more lighter version of purple and reduce the opacity to about 70%. I think that is ugly. So you need to walk around with your colors. You need to walk around, play around with your colors till you get the particular effect or the particular concept you are looking for. So we go with this purple and we try to control it from here. Let's try to control our purple from here. Let's not make it 70%. This should be 100%, and we control our colors from here. Fine. Or we can also pick colors from this particular angle and then we can control them easily. So this is how to control colors from this angle. You need to take time. Sometimes creating a gradient tool, I take a little time to get exactly what I'm looking out for. As you can see, the ones I've created, you see the concept I use there, just little touch of this color. Let's try to inspect this and see what it looks like. So we have the dark here, we have the dark here, we have the dark here, we have the dark on this edge, and we have yellow here, and we have pink here, and we have harder pink here, and we have blue that collides to this other part. Let's also inspect this one to see. So we have white here, we have this other color, we have blue, we have purple here, we have pink here, and we have yellow here, then we have white here. So just play around, be creative with your colors. If we actually want this to work on a black background, what we need to do, click on edit and click on this. We are going to switch this color to black, as you can see, and switch this other color. Every other part that is affected with white, we're automatically going to switch it to black, and automatically we have gotten the particular version that works perfectly with white. But look closely the difference between these two concepts. Okay, now as you can see, the one that works with black, we have more of darker colors, but the one that works with white, we have more of lighter colors. You can see the blue from top here is a brighter version of a color, but the blue we have here is a royal blue, or we say naval blue, from this particular angle, and it works very well for a darker background. So be careful with the colors you are choosing. It's far more better for you to create a different version for a brighter one and a different version for a darker background. So now let's get into using this, applying this to our main design. So I have two designs we've done, one for a brighter background and one for a darker background. So we're going to test out these two designs and these two gradients tools we have created, or I would say gradient widgets we have created on these two backgrounds. First, we are going to go with the white. Let's drag in the white to this background. Okay, we put it to the edge and we expand it to cover all area. Now, this is not all you need to do when creating a gradient. When you just do this, you are just a kind of blowing the whole thing all on people's face. Okay, so the best thing to do when you drop a gradient you must have to reduce the opacity to make it work best for what you want it to work for. Okay, so we're reducing the opacity to about let's say 35 or 34 is okay. So as you can see, the subtleness of this particular design starts shining out. It makes more sense now. Now we're going to try out using a black one on this particular same background to see if it works fine. As you can see, we are having some kind of issues already. Even if we reduce the opacity of the black one, it is not going to work. Okay, you see the concept? Let me remove, let's just remove the previous one so that you understand what I'm saying. See what's going on here? It doesn't make much sense. So when you want to apply a gradient of a darker texture, make sure there is an already existing dark background. And when you want to apply it on a brighter texture, make sure there's an already existing brighter background to complement that. So when we remove this and remove this, we see that we already have a bright background. And when we place the texture above and reduce the opacity, it now blends in with the bright background. Let's try the same with the darker backgrounds we have from here. I hope you guys are understanding the trick behind this and why people are scared of using gradient, mesh gradients. So as you can see already, even without reducing the opacity, this have started standing out for what it is. So as you can see from here, now we reduce the opacity to about, now it doesn't mean that you reduce opacity in the other one for 35. It means you have to reduce opacity for this one for the same 35. No, you just have to work with your mind, work with what works for you. So we reduce the opacity of this one to about 47, and I think 47 is okay. We can increase the shade from here to make it look more neatly placed. I think this is okay for what we want. So now we have our consent, and don't forget to change the color of your text. As you can see, I changed the color of my text to work with a bright background. When you're working, even the color of the logo is now switched to a brighter color. These are things you need to take in cognizance before you start working on your concepts. As you can see, the color we have here in the logo is darker and the text color is darker, but the color we have in this part is brighter and the text color is brighter to make everything shine. But that's not the most important thing that makes the gradient shine. For instance, if we change the background of this particular color we have to white, it's not going to work with the gradient anymore. It must be black to complement the darker background. So guys, that is it in our gradient tool. And I hope you understand this course very clearly. How to create a mesh gradient or a freeform gradient is that easy. So thank you for being part of this course. A gradient playlist will be below the description of this video. We have a list of more gradient concepts we've made, gradient, advanced gradient for logo design, and all of that. I'll drop the link below the description of this video. You can check that playlist out if you find it interesting to watch some more gradient tutorial. Okay, so make sure to hit the subscribe button if you are not subscribed yet. To be bringing out weekly content like this. Okay, so ring the bell also. Comment to encourage me, to make me know I'm also talking to people, and also share this video if you have the time. Do have a wonderful day. Once again, my name is Manuel from CaterGraphix.